longevity lifestyle designers. This is Zach here with secretsoflongevity.com, and I wanted to speak to you today on this glorious summer day about something that I've mentioned in past videos offhandedly, but I really haven't gone into detail about it, but that is the longevity cultures that we know exist out in the world that have been studied. And this isn't to say these are the only ones, but these really are the cream of the crop, so to speak. Some people have labeled them the blue zones, and a lot of the research that has gone into studying the lifestyle factors that these cultures engage in and comparing them to each other has been National Geographic. And there's sort of been two major people in separate groups that have studied these different cultures, but they were both funded in both instances by National Geographic. So to some degree it is one-sided in the sense that it's just National Geographic looking at that, but we do know that that's a very conscious, sort of environmentally focused group that has been funding this research. So right off the bat I'm going to talk about these 8 cultures that have been identified so far and that I often refer to in my videos. And these are the Okinawans of Japan, the Vilcabambans of Ecuador, the Abkhazians of the Caucasus region in Russia, the Hunzas of Pakistan, it's in the Himalayas, a mountainous region. There's the Icarians of Greece, and that's actually probably the most recent one that's been discovered. And there is also the Nicoya Peninsula off of Costa Rica. There is Loma Linda, California with the Seventh-day Adventists. That's a very interesting one in the respects that it's actually a modernized Western longevity culture. It's the only one that we know of. It's probably the longest lived area of North America. And then of course there's Sardinia in Italy, which is an island off the coast of Italy. If you think of the boot of Italy, it's often referred to as a boot, and there's like that soccer ball that's kicking. Well, that soccer ball, or the roundish type of island, is Sardinia. And there's one region of that island that has very high rates of longevity. And there's actually potentially a 9th longevity pocket in China. However, I haven't seen research specifically on this by any one single group, but this is just from my own research, and if I get a specific region that I deem worthy of a title of a longevity culture, I'll talk about that in a later video. There's a few different pockets in China that have very great rates of longevity, and they have similar lifestyle factors that would contribute to this, but for the moment I'll just be focusing on those 8. And also in future videos I'm going to go into detail on each culture just to sort of give an idea of what these lifestyle factors are like in these areas, but in this specific video I'm just going to go over the likeness that brings the research by National Geographic together and sort of the sum result of what they found. So 2 great books that I'd recommend looking at if you want to see sort of like a sum up of this information is The Blue Zones, which is a recent book by Dan Buettner. That's Dan obviously is D-A-N, and then Buettner's B-U-E-T-T-N-E-R. And another fairly recent book is titled Healthy at 100, and that's by John Robbins, and he refers to a lot of the older research by Dr. Alexander Leaf, which was on the first 3 cultures, the Vilcabambans of Ecuador, the Hunzas, and the Abkhazians in Russia. And there's some controversy now, so to speak, about the exactness of his research and how they're actually, to be truthful, they actually did decide that a lot of these people that were claiming to be of slightly exaggerated age or lifespan weren't actually that old. But however, it is impossible to know for sure whether these people were telling the truth or not, because the tracking records for that time period weren't available when those people were born. So really it's impossible to know for sure whether these people lived to be 130 or 160 in some cases that some of the claims were made. But we do know for certain that the people in these areas were living a long time, longer than other regions in their respective countries and continents, and that they were really vital up until their elder years. There was really no reason for them to stop working in later in life, They had great relationships with their kids, their grandkids, their great-great-grandkids, and on down the generations. And in my perspective, that deems them worthy of the title of a longevity culture, even if we don't have exact, precise information as to how long they were living, specifically these individuals that may or may not have lived to the age that they said they were living. One thing I'd like to point out is that there are many people that talk about primitive and traditional cultures and use them as a basis for health knowledge and health advice. And I'd be very hesitant to make recommendations like that, simply because after looking at these cultures and looking at the statistics and data that has been rounded up by National Geographic and the people funded by National Geographic, is that there are certain lifestyle factors that across the board are present in all these cultures that can almost definitively be said to be factors that increase your longevity potential as a human being. And some of these cultures that a lot of people talk about, or some people, are actually go against this information that we're learning from these long-lived cultures. And I'm just throwing a few things that people do talk about out there just to sort of disseminate this information. One is the Inuit. There are certain groups that talk about robust health in the Inuit and the Maasai cultures, traditional cultures, and a lot of that information has been lost because of the degradation of the traditions of these cultures. They no longer follow the exact dietary lifestyle and exercise lifestyle, hunter-gathering type of lifestyle that they used to follow, and they have the introductions of different foods now, so they can't really be studied. But there is actually archaeological evidence of Inuit with their high fat and high protein diets, and animal fat and protein, did contribute to osteoporosis and heart disease and all these other things. Yet they are emphasis on having robust health, when in reality their lifespan, according to some of this archaeological evidence, they found people buried under snow that were living in huts, and they found women in their 30s having osteoporosis and in their 40s. So a common argument with the people that promote the Inuit as having a robust health with a high animal food diet. In reality, that's a baseless claim, because we have seen that that was not true, and that they actually did have health problems because of the very acidic diet that they took part in. And the same went for the Maasai in that respect. So that brings me to the next point, that the dietary lifestyle of all these different cultures were predominantly plant-based. These cultures weren't engaging in anything exceeding 10% of their volume of their food as animal products. And many of these cultures were verging on being vegetarian in that respect. They were 1% meat in their diet. They might have had some dairy from goats or cows in some instances, or they might have had access to eggs, such as in the Nicoya Peninsula of Costa Rica. They consumed eggs on a daily basis somewhat. But there really isn't cases of anything exceeding beyond 10%. So we see that 90 to 95% of their diet is being plant-based, which is really a strong thing we can say about what was a factor between all these cultures. And there was actually one culture that could be said had the benefits of being vegetarian, having health benefits of that. And again, this goes against that sort of high meat diet perspective that is present in the health movement at this time. And that culture is Loma Linda, California. And this is a area outside of Los Angeles. It's, I guess, a suburb of Los Angeles. And they do actually even have vegans as part of their some of the people that are involved in their belief system. And that's actually part of their belief system, is that they want to avoid or abstain from flesh foods and animal foods. And actually what they found when studying this was that the people eating the flesh, the most animal flesh, actually had the lowest lifespan within this subculture. And it's very interesting because this is a very mixed racial culture. There's people of all ethnic backgrounds. So the argument that some people hold that, different origins of what you have dictate your needs metabolically for animal foods, or whether it's a high animal food diet or a low animal food diet. But really, this research on Loma Linda is very interesting because it shows that across the board, those who follow a very high plant-based diet exceed in their lifespans over those who happen to choose to consume meat or excessive animal products. So in part 2 of this video series, I'm going to look at some other factors that are involved in the lifestyles of these various cultures, and then in previous videos after that I'm going to go, like I mentioned, go into the different longevity pockets and look at their specific habits involved and the history of those cultures that makes them unique. So take care, I'll talk to you later, and live life without limits.